Good day, dear student. In today's class, we shall start our new module, that is module number 5, Kinetics and Dynamics. This module consists of two parts. Part A is about particle dynamics, and part B is about introduction to kinetics of rigid bodies. These are the subparts which we are going to cover in the part A and B respectively. Till now, dear student, the part which we have studied, it was related to the statics. Now, further, these two modules we are going to study are related to the dynamics. So, as we all are aware that statics is an old part of engineering mechanics, as we see the history of it. For example, Archimedes era, we know that from 287 to 212 BC, where he studied the principles of lever and buoyancy. Whereas, and other also number of scientists pioneered this subject, engineering mechanics, statics part. Whereas, dynamics is comparatively new. Its era started from Galileo from 1564 to 1642 and is believed to have discovered the elements of dynamics. After that, Newton proposed some basic principles related to dynamics. Later, Euler, D'Alembert, Laplace, Coriolis, etc. enriched the domain of dynamics. We all are aware that mechanics is divided into two parts, statics and dynamics, and dynamics again further divided into kinematics and kinetics. So kinematics, it is the part of dynamics which dealing with the analysis of motion, whereas kinetics consist of analysis of dynamics associated with laws of motion, inertial effect, work, power, energy, impulse, impulse and momentum, vibration, etc. So we are dealing with this next part, that is kinetics, where which is consist of again two parts: particle dynamics, kinetics of particles, and kinetics of rigid body. Now let us see the try to understand the generalized plane motion. So here it is beautifully explained with this three types, that is rotation, translation, and plane motion. So the generalized plane motion, it is divided into three types: rectilinear motion, curvilinear motion, and rotation. So in case of rectilinear motion, we can understand that it is a motion in a line, right? In a straight line maybe, or may not be. So it is a linear motion. So for example, moving car on a road in a line. So that is a rectilinear motion. Whereas motion around a circular path or curvilinear path, it is called as the curvilinear motion. It is further divided into two types, that is the projectile motion and the simple harmonic motion. So all of you must have studied, dear student, that projectile motion, how the flight of a particular projectile it takes place, right? And range and all this nomenclature you must have studied. Whereas simple harmonic motion with a fixed datum line, it performs a particular pattern, right? In the similar context, rotation, it is again further divided into two categories: centroidal rotation and non-centroidal rotation. Centroidal rotation means around a fixed center, it keeps on rotating. For example, we have our fan, rotor, or flywheel that used to rotate around a fixed center, right? Center, and that takes the full 360-degree rotation. Whereas in case of pendulum, you can see that the rotation is about a fixed center, but it is not completely around a 360 degree. So we can see that the pendulum motion like this, it comes under the category of non-centroidal rotation. So it is around some axis about a center. So In the same context, we have rectilinear motion when we say that in that plane motion we have so motion along a plane. This is a plane, suppose xy plane, and in that plane, suppose there is a ladder, suppose ladder standing with the support of a wall. So when it starts, if it is not in equilibrium condition, it will start slipping down, right? Initial condition is like this. So horizontally it will move downward from B2 to B1. Vertically, sorry, it will come from B2 to B1, and horizontally it will move from A1 to A2 towards right, like this. So vertically from upward to downward it will come. At the same time, simultaneously it will move from left to right the same distance. So that is a linear motion, right? But when we see this center part, middle part of this, it is again traveled through some angle theta, isn't it? So that is how this second motion, translation and rotation, it combinedly it forms the plane motion. How it forms, you can easily correlate this with this example. So suppose the same ladder is support with the support of wall, it is in the position, initial position A1 B1, and if we move this end A1 A1 to A2 and B1 to B2, it will get a second position here. You can see, right? This is the with suppose another wall it is resting. So whatever the motion is happening for the ends, it is without any angle. So it is just in a straight line. It is moving horizontally. Both the ends are moving horizontally. Whereas if we consider the rotation, this horizontal plane motion, it is called as the translation. One point is translating simply to the another position. Whereas in case of rotation, we can see that one end A is remaining fixed, whereas end B, it is rotating with some angle theta. So these are the position, and we can see that it is rotating. So basically, if we combine these two motion, that is translation and rotation, we get the plane motion, which is combination of translation, right, in the straight line motion, whereas again the rotation about some angle theta. Now in the same context, we will try to express the coordinates in terms of the different system. For example, rectangular coordinate system. So as we are familiar that rectangular coordinates are expressed in terms of x and y in case of plane motion, right? In case of space, it is x, y and z coordinate. So in curvilinear motion within rectangular coordinate system, the total velocity is expressed in terms of v is equal to v suffix x plus v suffix y, where that is velocity in the x direction plus velocity in the y direction. Its magnitude it is found out like this: v is equal to under root of vx square plus vy square, and its direction is found out tan inverse of vy by vx. In the same context, we have acceleration a is equal to ax plus ay, and the same formula in place of v it is replaced by a. So keep it in mind, dear students, in rectangular coordinates we are simply expressing in terms of x and y. Vector mechanics you must have studied in your physics class 11 and 12. We express it in terms of the unit vector in direction x y, like with I and j, unit vector in the direction x and y respectively. In case of polar coordinates, we have the polar coordinate system. It is expressed in terms of radius and theta, r and theta. And for polar coordinate system, we have v is equal to v theta plus vr. That is called as the instantaneous velocity. Similarly, we have instantaneous acceleration. It is the combination of again a theta plus ar. We shall see in detail in the further PPTs, dear student. Before that, let us revise the basic laws of mechanics, which all of you must have by hearted from your school days. So in this laws of mechanics, that is a contribution due to Newton, and it was originally written in Latin in 1667. So what it says, first law, that every body preserves in its state of rest or of state of uniform motion in a right line unless it is compelled to change the state by forces imposed thereon. So this statement, different way of statement, you must have studied that every body keeps its state of rest or state of uniform motion until and unless it is applied by an external force. Similarly, we have the second law statement that the acceleration of motion is ever proportional to the motive force impressed and is made in the direction of right line in which that force is impressed. In other words, rate of change of momentum of a body equal to force impressed upon it. So this F mathematically we can write down F is directly proportional to A, and further this acceleration we can break into acceleration is rate of change of velocity, right? So this is how we can express F is equal to ma, and A is m into A is rate of change of velocity. If F is 0, then obviously A is 0, and that is equal to rate of change of velocity is 0. So this follows that in absence of an external force, a body will continue to be in a state of rest or of uniform velocity, and it is the as per the first law, right? So in the graphically in this way we can represent it, force and the acceleration. So third law, to every action there is always opposite, equal and opposite reaction. So these are the basic statements of laws of mechanics which we have revised. Now let us see a simple problem. Let us try to solve it. So what we have, dear student, a particle slides along a straight track with a speed of 6.5 meter per second as shown in figure. At time t is equal to 0, a force shown as dashed arrow is applied to the particle. So particle is moving in this direction towards right, but at time t is equal to 0, a force in the opposite direction is applied to the particle, and it is happening that the resulting deceleration is 1.6 meter per second square. So this is the situation given to us, and based on that we have to find out the time when the velocity of the particle is reduced to 50% of its initial value and the corresponding distance traveled by the particle. Similarly, we have to find out the time when the particle comes to rest and corresponding total distance through which the particle travels. Now when you will read the statement, very easily we can find out that by applying the basic laws of equations of motion we can solve it. All of us are aware the equations of motion: v is equal to u plus at, s is equal to ut plus half at square, and v square is equal to u square plus twice as. So among these basic three equations of motion we can solve the unknown quantity. Now before that let us see what is given in the problem. So first of all, the initial velocity is given as 6.5 meter per second, and the deceleration, that is acceleration in the opposite direction, that's why sign is minus given, minus 1.6 meter per second square. Now the condition is given that the time to reach 50% of the initial velocity, right, is find from. So initial velocity, it is initially 6.5 and 50% of that, so let us multiply it with 50%, 0.5, that is equal to v is equal to u plus at, basic equation we are using, equation of motion. In this particular equation we know the initial velocity as u is equal to 6.5, final velocity has become the 50% of the initial velocity, and acceleration, that is deceleration, is given minus 1.6, and only time t is the unknown. So this time t we can do the calculation and to find out the value. In the same context here, you can also find out the distance traveled that by the particle, that is by using the formula S is equal to ut plus half at square. Again in this formula S we know 6.5, time t just now we have found out 2.303 second, and deceleration is minus 1.6, and by putting down all this value we get the value of S, that is distance traveled at this time, is 9.89 meter. Similarly, when the particle comes to rest for the second condition, we have the final velocity is equal to 0, and again applying the same equation of motion, we calculate the value of the first of all the time t at the condition that v is equal to 0. So by putting v is equal to 0 and rest of the value same, we have the t only unknown, and that value comes around 4.06 second. Now for the same time again, by using the formula v square is equal to u square plus twice as, we can find out the distance. S is equal to 13.2 meter. So this was the simple problem, dear students, which we can solve by using the laws of motion. Let us try to solve another problem. In this problem, the equation of motion of a particle moving along a circular path is given. The circular path radius is 200 meter, and it is given by the equation S is equal to 18t plus 3t square minus 2t cube, where S is the distance traveled by the particle from starting point in meters, and at the end t is given in seconds. So we have to find out the velocity and acceleration at the beginning, the time when the particle reaches its maximum speed, and the maximum speed of the particle. Now in the same, if we read this problem carefully, we know the equation of distance in terms of t. So what is velocity? Velocity is a rate of change of displacement. So when we differentiate with respect to time, we get the equation for velocity. Similarly, for acceleration, acceleration is rate of change of velocity. So when we differentiate this equation, again this one as twice or this one again once, so we get it the second equation for the acceleration. Let us denote it equation number 1 and equation number 2. So velocity in the beginning, we know that v is at the beginning is v is 0, v is v naught, that is when our velocity at the beginning, when t is equal to 0. So in this equation, when t value of t is equal to 0, we get the value of v0, that is v naught, and that is equal to 18 meter per second by replacing the value t is equal to 0 in equation number 1. Similarly, from the same one we can calculate the angular velocity omega naught, that is v is equal to r omega, we know, dear student. So omega 0, omega naught is equal to v naught upon r. Radius of the curve path is given 200 meter. So putting down the value, we get the omega naught is equal to 0.09 radian per second. Now acceleration at the beginning, that we need to find out, since it is a motion around a curve, so we need to find out the acceleration, that is circular, right? So curvilinear acceleration, or acceleration for the curve path at t is equal to 0. So we know that acceleration at t is equal to 0, we can easily find out the value by putting this in the equation of acceleration. When t is 0, we get a is equal to 6 meter per second square. Now this is the linear acceleration. For the curvilinear, we get that alpha naught is equal to a naught upon r in the similar way. So we get the value of acceleration at the start, that is when t is equal to 0. We get the acceleration by dividing it the linear acceleration with the radius, and that value we get at 0.03 radian per second square. Now next we have to find out the time t when particle reaches at its maximum speed. That is dv by dt we need to find out at acceleration is 0, right? And the time t we have to find out. So now we know that from equation 2 at time t is the unknown one, and we have all the acceleration is equal to 0 plus we by replacing the value 6 minus 12t, and that we get the value as t is equal to zero point 0.5 second. What we have done here, dear student, that dv by dt we have taken at a is equal to 0. So equating that value equal to a is equal to 0, we get t is as the unknown, only unknown remaining here, and that is how t is equal to 0 0.5 second. Now third we have to find out the maximum speed when this time t is 0 0.5 second, right? So we know from equation 1, for the equation of velocity, let us replace the value t is equal to 0 0.5 so that we get the maximum value. Since we have find out the value of t at the maximum speed, so this is the time where the maximum speed and will occur. So this is value linear velocity we get 19.5 meter per second square. Converting the same into the angular one, angular velocity, omega max, we get it by dividing it with the radius. The value as 0.0975 radian per second. So this is how the again recapitulation that angular motion we have studied that some bodies like pulleys, shaft, flywheels, etc. have the rotational motion, that is the angular motion theta around some angle theta about a center, and the angular velocity of a body is always expressed in terms of rpm, that is revolution per minute, and the corresponding angular velocity omega, it is expressed in terms of radian per second is found out. So this is the general relationship. 1 rpm is equal to that complete rotation it takes place 360 degree, that is equal to 2 pi radian per minute, and that is how for n rpm we have 2 pi n radian per minute. To convert it into second we need to divide it by 60. So that is how we get the value of omega, angular velocity is equal to twice pi n by 60 radian per second. Now here are some of the important terms, dear student. Angular velocity, all of you are aware that it is the rate of change of angular displacement of a body and is expressed in terms of rpm or radian per second. It is denoted by omega. Similarly, angular acceleration, it is denoted by alpha, and it is nothing but it is the rate of change of angular velocity, and it is expressed in terms of radian per second square. Always keep the analogy with the linear one, dear students. So in that comparative way, when we study, we need not have to remember it separately. We automatically understand it. Similarly, angular displacement, it is the total angle through which the body has rotated, and it is denoted by theta. So mathematically, theta is equal to omega t, where omega is the uniform angular velocity. Beside this, we have the relation between the linear motion and the circular motion. As I told that when we keep the things, understand the thing in the comparative way, then we need not have to remember it separately. So here we have the linear motion and all these terms linear velocity and angular velocity. So it is denoted by V and omega naught. Vu and omega naught. Similarly, final velocity we often denote with V, and angular final velocity we denote with omega. Similarly, acceleration A and alpha, displacement S theta. So obviously ds is equal to r d theta with respect to theta. And velocity, again we have rate of change of displacement. Here also rate of change of theta, rotation. So these are the basic formulae, equations of motion related to the linear motion and these are for the angular motion. Kindly keep it in mind for the formula for velocity angular motion, it is valid for the constant acceleration only. So these are the relations: acceleration, rate of change of velocity; angular acceleration, rate of change of angular velocity. So A is equal to, like V is equal to R omega, A is equal to R alpha. So let us try to understand the basic components we have seen in the beginning of the class. So let us see it in details. So we have three types of components, dear students: a rectangular component, normal and tangential components, and radial and transverse components. How it are expressed? These are the ways: rectangular, normal and tangential, and radial and transverse component. So rectangular coordinates, we have seen that it is expressed in terms of sigma fx. Till now we have done a number of times problems for that, and that F is equal to ma, Newton's law. So when we are considering x coordinates, so acceleration in the same direction, x direction we are considering. Similarly, for y direction we are considering the components in the y direction for the acceleration. So here we know acceleration is rate of change of velocity and velocity is rate of change of displacement. So it is double derivative with respect to the displacement in the x and y direction respectively. These are for the rectangular coordinates. Similarly, we have the normal and tangential components. So in case of the plane circular motion, we have the radius of the curvature, that is rho, and it is constant because it is some number expressed in terms of some number. So when we have the normal plane circular motion, the path of the particle moving in a circular way, so we have the two components, that is tangential component and the normal component. So in this way it is expressed in the summation sigma ft is equal to m into acceleration, tangential acceleration. Similarly, sigma fn is equal to mass into the normal acceleration component. Where we know, dear students, that tangential acceleration, it is rate of change of velocity. Velocity we can express in this way. This ds we can split dv by dt into two parts. So replacing the value, ds by dt is nothing but rate of change of displacement, that is velocity. So in this way we can express. Similarly, normal component an, it is given as v square by rho, where rho is the radius of the curvature. So here one point we need to keep it in mind, students, that the normal component sigma fn is always towards the center of curvature, and the tangential component, as we know that it is tangent. So ft, if not 0, it is collinear with the velocity. So this is the path of the particle. So obviously this component ft will be collinear with the velocity component. But when this tangential component is absent, in that case the normal component Fn is always present and it is known as the centripetal force. So we have studied the centripetal and centrifugal force. So centripetal, this is always towards the center. So in the absence of this tangential component, this normal component is always there in terms of the centripetal force. Similarly, we have the radial and transverse components. In case of plane curvilinear motion, if polar coordinates, we have seen that in polar coordinates are expressed in terms of r and theta, where r is the radius of the curvature and the theta is the inclination. So the relationship is expressed in terms of radial and transverse component. So radial component, it is again mass into radial acceleration, and transverse component, that is mass into the transverse acceleration. So this acceleration values are expressed in this way: ar is equal to d2r by dt square minus r into d theta by dt square. In the dot form, it is expressed in this way, that r double dot minus r theta dot bracket square. Similarly, a theta, that is transverse component of acceleration, it is expressed in this way, r theta double dot double derivative with respect to time plus twice r dot theta dot. So these are the radial and transverse components. Let us try to solve a simple problem based on the same formulae which we have studied. So here we have a problem, a bob of a pendulum. Its length is given 3.5 meter, and it describes the arc of a circle in a vertical plane as shown in figure. So if the tension in the string is 2.5 times the weight of the bob in the position shown, then we need to find out the velocity and the acceleration of the bob for the position. Now, by observing this, dear student, we need to draw the free body diagram first. That is free body diagram for dynamic equilibrium. So what will be there? You can see here the bob, the mass m is given. So its weight mg will be acting in the downward direction. Similarly, this t is this string is there. So let us denote the tension in the string as T. So it will be in the opposite direction, in this direction, right? And it is moving the angle 30 degree. So again we have a component of the acceleration moving in the upward direction, right? Like this, that is the tangential component, and the normal component exactly at right angle to the tangential component. So this is our free body diagram for the dynamic equilibrium. Now we have to, after drawing the free body diagram, now to find out the unknown, we have to resolve it along the two planes, that is the tangential plane. Instead of x and y plane, we have to resolve it along this plane and across this plane, right? So let us try to write down the equation. So what we have, sigma ft is equal to 0. So along the transverse direction, we have the force m into at, right? The transverse acceleration and the mass. Similarly, we have the component of the weight in the transverse direction, that is mg sine 30 degree. So when we replace this value, m will get cancelled, and when we solve this, we get the value of at as unknown as 4.905 meter per second square. Similarly, when we resolve it along the across the plane, that is sigma fn, normal plane, then we have a component for tension in the upward direction. Then we have the component of normal force in the opposite direction to tension, and we have a component of the weight, right? So according to the direction, let us give the sign convention. So here in the equation it is given that T is equal to 2.5 mg, that is the 2.5 times weight of the bob. So replacing the value of T as 2.5 mg, we have the unknown only an, and we get the value of unknown as by doing the calculation we get the value as 16.028 meter per second square. This is point. You can replace the value and you can do your own calculation. Similarly, we know that formula for the total acceleration, it is the square root of square of at square plus an square. So this, by replacing the value, we get it as 16.763 meter per second square. Now these are the values, dear student, we have find out. Let us try to find out the direction for the acceleration. Now as we know that an is equal to v square by rho. So we have in this formula v square, we can get the value because v square is the unknown, an we know, rho is given. So we have the value by 7.49 meter per second. Similarly, acceleration just now we have calculated. Now the inclination for alpha, that is for the acceleration, we can find out as an by at, and that is equal to 73 degrees. So in this way we can express this inclination For the total acceleration, that is 73 degree, we can easily calculate this by adding this direction 30 degree to it, right? Like 47 degree. So this way we can calculate the value and even the inclination. So this is for today's class, dear student. Till then, stay home, stay safe, take care, and goodbye.